Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a car to pick up in Columbus, Ohio. It's a short little trip away, only 6 hours. It's currently 1 a.m., so I'll see you when I get there. Well, we made it, so let's have them load the car in the trailer and head on back. For everyone that asks, yes, occasionally the forklifts do damage to the bottom of the car, but it's the most efficient way to move a vehicle when they're at the auction. And vehicles are moved a minimum of 3 times, probably more like 20 in the time that they get to the auction and end up on a trailer leaving the auction. So we got it all strapped down. Love Hondas. Super easy to hook up. They make them easy to tow. We should do that with Ford since they're usually on a tow truck. So here's our car. Looks like it failed to stop. Let's see if it starts. We got somewhat of a battery. Not enough to start it. Not even gonna bother charging it. I didn't bring a jumper pack, so we're gonna have to wait till we get home to start it up and see how many miles are on it. There's quite a few. Let's head back to Chicago. So of all the auctions I've been to, this is probably one of the more interesting ones. You basically drive through a bunch of baseball fields, and all the way at the back is the auction. It's kind of a nice ride through the trees now in the fall. Then winter comes. So we're headed out of Ohio into Indiana and now into Illinois. And now, well, if you've been here before, you know what happens. If not, I posted a video earlier this week to tell you what happens. So we got our Honda Civic in the shop. Our airbags are deployed. Need a little work up here. All the cooling, headlight, fender, hood, radiator support. Somebody's been here before. He's already had a radiator support once. Yep. Somebody's definitely been here before. Aftermarket fender. That fender's been painted. You can tell because it doesn't have the Honda clear coat peel. But it does run and drive. Interior's kind of dirty. Don't mind the back seat. I was just looking for change to try to recover some of my money. Little dent in the quarter. Couple dents on our deck lid here, and we'll have to get a spoiler for it. This side doesn't look too bad. Need some tires. A little bit of rust. Alright, guess we're gonna have to part it out now. I don't do rust. 384,278 miles. Didn't even get any gas. Hey, the radio's not locked out. It's an EX, it has a sunroof. And it runs, hey. So now the moment you've all been waiting for. How much should I pay for this almost 400,000 mile, rusty, smashed pile of junk? Well, the answer is $600. And with auction fees and transporting it up here, I have about $1,000 in this car. Now, that might sound like a lot of money for this thing, but most of these cars selling at the auction are going for over $1,000 after auction fees. You end up with almost double that. I really don't care how many miles are on it because it's a Honda and you can't kill them. And I'm cutting this one up for parts. So my parts that I'm going to need off this car were going to cost me a little over $1,500, and that wasn't including all the little odds and ends I was going to have to buy later. Now I have all those odds and ends. So this car to me is worth a little over $2,000. Since I only paid $1,000, I'm money ahead. And I have the rest of a car to, I don't know, figure out what to do with. I can scrap it and easily get another $500 for this thing. So I have about $500 in my parts actually. So let's get our parts off of this thing, and sooner or later, you're gonna see what they're going on. And it's definitely worth fixing the other car, because it is pretty much the exact opposite of this car. So now it's time for my favorite game that I've never shared with you guys. It's what did the old owner leave us? And it turns out they left us an oil filter wrench, a funnel, I don't remember what that was, a flashlight that actually works, amazing, a bag to put it all in, some fuses, throw it over the shadow gnome, and now we can start pulling our car apart. Get our spare tire cover out of the way, a little filler on top of it, and we'll unscrew our spare tire. We're going to need all this for our next build, because it didn't come with it. Somebody had been there before. So now we'll get the carpeting off the bottom of the trunk. It clips in up in the front here, so we just need to get our fingers under there and unclip it. Then we can slide it out of there. We'll pull our little sill plate off the back. Just lifts up, little wiggle and pull. And we saved 3 out of the 4 clips. Now we can pull our trunk carpeting out of the driver's side. Honda at least puts the carpeting inside the car where it belongs, not in the wheel wells. Looking at you, GM trucks. These clips actually come out pretty easy. Just unscrew the centers. Then they pop out. Wiggle them out of there. Try not to lose them, because we are going to need them. Somebody's that have been there before didn't leave me a whole lot of parts. We use our trim clip pliers to pop the little Christmas tree out of the bottom there. The back end's out, I think. We'll go up to the front, little Christmas tree up there. While we're up here, we'll pull the passenger side out. Throw everything in our bucket. We'll pull our carpeting out. Pick up all our tools in our bucket, and our carpeting's out of there. Then we'll go over and take the passenger side out. More of those little clips. Unscrew the centers. The trick is to use just the right amount of pressure to get the screwdriver to not slip out, yet not push the center back in. It's just plastic and it kind of wants to sink back into its clip. So you need to find a balance there. It's a very thin line. So once our clips are out of there, throw them on our bucket. Pop our Christmas tree out. And our carpeting should be ready to come out of there. Okay. Now we can start taking our taillights out. We'll unclip the wiring harness that clips onto the studs and hold our taillight in. Then we'll unplug our taillight. Make 3 bulbs in there. And once those are out of the way, unclip our wiring harness from the last stud. And we can unbolt our taillight. Now we can unbolt our rear bumper. A couple of Allen screws that go in the top back here. There's some Phillips screws that hold our mud flaps on. They also hold our bumper on. I'm going to take those loose. There's one screw that holds our bumper to the quarter, and this one's rusted in there. Why do I buy rusty cars? Because they're cheap, that's why. So once we got that screw out of here, we'll just pull the bumper out of its bracket, slide it off, and now we can see the bottom of our taillight. There's a couple of nuts on the bottom. Studs are welded to the body panel. So we're going to try and unbolt them. They used to be 10 millimeters. I don't know what they are now. That one was a 10. This one was about a 9.5. So we're going to have to use another method. We'll hammer on a socket, 3/8, just a little bit smaller than a 10, might be enough to grab onto it. Not quite, slipped off. Next method, hopes and prayers in a can, some penetrating oil. And we'll try buzzing it off. Our hopes and prayers didn't work. They never do. So now we'll heat it up a little bit with our torch. That's MAP gas. Burns a little bit hotter than propane. We'll warm up the nut a little bit. And we'll try our socket again. And we're able to get it off of there. And take our taillight out. We'll go over to the other side. We'll pull our screws out of our, well, they used to be in the mud flap, but well, somebody seemed to hit something. We'll pull the other one out of the quarter. This one wasn't quite in there as bad, but still rusty. And that squeaky sound lets you know that there's rust in the plastic. You got to make the screw loosening face or it's never coming out of there. Clip it from the bracket. And we're going to set this off to the side. Now we'll apply a little hopes and prayers in a can. See if that helps us out at all. We're going to need these studs, so we don't want to break them off there. Well, the outside one didn't quite work, so we're back to the torch method. Oh, it's like my birthday. I blow out the candle. Try not to melt the bottom of the taillight because we do need them. You got a little turbo socket on there. It grabs onto it when you reverse it out of there. So it takes out those round-headed nuts. We'll pull our energy absorber off our reinforcement. Then we can unbolt our reinforcement from the extensions. Then we're going to have a little lesson in torque. Our impact won't take it off of there, so we're going to have to take the extension off. And now we can get it out of there. Go over to the other side. It looks like this car had a fire at one time. That dark spots on our reinforcement, that almost looks like it was burned. Wonder what the story is. So now we can unbolt our extensions from our frame rails. We'll work them in and out. Once they start moving, if you just go back and forth, cleans up the threads, takes them out without breaking. This one's not going, so we'll take our extension out of there. Make it easier to snap the head right off of there. And that's what we did. Luckily, I don't need that. So our top one came out of there. Now we're over to the driver's side. We're going to do the same thing. Except we can't break any bolts out of this side. So we're going to have to take our time. So far they're all coming out. Run this one back and forth, the one that broke on our other one, and we saved it. We have not made our life any more difficult than we need to. Now we can pull our taillight out of there, we'll pull the harness off, then unbolt the taillight, and wiggle and pull, and we'll go put that in our pile for later. Our driver's door is rubbing on our fender that's misaligned, so we're going to go get Big Bertha, that is now identifying as a fender alignment tool, and we're going to give it a little adjustment here. That looks about right. Perfect. Doesn't rub anymore. Must be ready to go. Gap's still better than a Tesla. Now we'll go over to our passenger side. We're going to pull our little Christmas trees out and get this little plastic filler out of here. And wiggle and pull. And we also took the top of the filler neck off for our washer fluid. Set that off the windshield. When we get to our bolts on the top of our fender, this is an aftermarket fender. It was replaced when the other one was replaced. Couple bolts up in the front. Couple bolts underneath the headlight that you can't see because the camera guy set the camera up in the wrong place, but trust me, that's what I'm taking out. Make sure our fender liner is disconnected. And we have a mud flap in the back. Take those Phillips screws out of there. They also hold the wheel liner in. When somebody's been here before, they aren't rusted in. Thanks, somebody. We need the mud flap out of the way because there's one bolt in the bottom of the fender. Didn't expect to find a dime there. No, I'm not talking to myself. The Shadow Gnome is behind the camera, I promise. Maybe it's just a figment of my imagination. So we can get to that bolt on the bottom of our fender. Seems loose. Couple little clips. Put our wheel liner in. Pop those out of there. Try anyway. There we go. I believe there's supposed to be one bolt inside the door, but luckily though somebody's knew we'd be here and they left it out, so that makes our job a little easier. So we'll pull the cowl screen back a little bit. We're not going to take this piece off because that's too much work. Sneak our driver in there, get to that last bolt up on the top. I'm going to wiggle and pull. And our fender comes off of there. Open the door so we can slide the last tab past it. And we'll slide it back and out of the headlight. Now we're going to pull our deck lid off. We need to pull our trunk carpeting off. But in order to get that off, we have to pull these little covers that go over our trunk hinges. Pop all the Christmas trees out. Pop the other trunk hinge cover off. A couple of screws, well, screw-in clips across the back. A lot of this is very similar to the Lexus IS we just did. A little cheaper car, but very, very similar. So if you missed the Lexus IS build, links up above, and you can compare it to the build coming up and see how different manufacturers do the same thing. Always one screw giving you trouble. Now we can see our wiring harness. We'll unplug our release cable for our latch. Pop it out of there. Twist it out. We can start unplugging our harness from all of our lights. We can unplug our harness from the deck lid. One more clip in our trunk release. harness out of there. One more clip for the harness. One more plug. We pull the rest of our harness through our deck lid here. So we fished our harness out of the deck lid, but there's one last clip holding it in right above the hinge. So we're just going to pry it out of there with our trim clip pliers because we're not going to need this wiring harness. At least I hope we're not. So if we break the tabs, it won't matter. So once that's free, we're ready to unbolt our deck lid. There's only 4 bolts that hold it on. I put some towels underneath the corners of the deck lid above the glass. Well, actually between the glass and the deck lid, because I have learned the hard way, if you drop that deck lid on the glass breaks. So we'll lift it off. Those rags were just there as a precautionary measure. So we're still going to need a couple more parts off our little Honda here, but we'll get those off later after we figure out what we need for our other build. If you want to see what the other build is and what these parts are going on, subscribe to the channel. It'll be coming up. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.